It's right now it is 2:06, so I want to welcome, we've got 8 people here, so I want to welcome all 8 of you coming here to our workshop. And I think at this point we can go ahead and begin. So I'm going to begin with my introduction first. This is the Logic of IELTS workshop, and most of you know me already. I'm Teacher Michael. You probably know me from the Logic of IELTS on Facebook, and you can also know about me from the videos that I've made on Logic of IELTS on YouTube. I've been teaching for 10 years now, and it makes me really happy to help you learn. And so many of the students that I have worked with and made corrections on essays for and given you advice have asked me, please do a workshop. We want to see a live video with you. And finally, I can provide that to you, and I'm very happy to do so. So for this workshop specifically, we will work on writing task 2. In the future, we will have more workshops. And for those workshops, we might continue to do more writing task 2. We might do writing task 1. A lot of the decision, it depends on your feedback. So if you want something special, please message us and I can help to make that happen. For today, I will look at one of my students' essays. I will go through it step by step with you, looking at each mistake that the student made. After the mistakes, I will give you some time to ask me questions if you need to. I will also provide to you information about what kind of mistake the student made. In IELTS, there are 4 parameters that you are measured on for writing test 2. So I might tell you, this is a mistake for task response, or this is a mistake for coherence and cohesion. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you now and show you the prompt that we're looking at. So to begin, the prompt that we are looking at for writing test 2 says, over the years, video games have become increasingly violent. The violence depicted in these games is responsible for increases in violent crimes among young people. To what extent do you agree or disagree? That is our prompt. Then next you can see here, this is the whole student sample answer. You can see here that generally the structure has 4 paragraphs. It has an introduction, 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. For right now, we will look at the introduction first. You can see this whole introduction right here, but I'm going to start by talking about the topic sentence. One thing that I'm going to talk about a lot in today's workshop is how important the topic sentence is. Oh, and as one more note, next to me, you can't see her right now, but next to me, I have one of my great partners. She's a Vietnamese girl, and if you have questions or you want to talk to me, but you don't know how to say something in English, you can speak in Vietnamese, and my friend here will help to translate. And if I'm speaking something in English and you can't understand me, you can ask to repeat again in Vietnamese, and again, we can help you with that. Anyway, so moving on to the first topic sentence. For this topic sentence, the main thing here is, it says, violence in video games and criminal activities have been a growing trend nowadays. And the main problem with this sentence is, well, probably you might think it's a good topic sentence, but there is an error here. And the error for this one is in the parameter called task response. And personally, when I'm working, I have seen a lot of introductions like this, and it's not exactly wrong, but it's not going to help you score higher than maybe like a 5 or a 6. And specifically, the problem in this topic sentence is that it is linking together ideas about criminal activities and violence in video games too quickly. And you can see in the screen that I highlighted those two terms. The sentence states that these two things are a growing trend together. And that's the big problem. This is not a correct way to rephrase or summarize the prompt. The first sentence of writing test 2 should always be a neutral paraphrase of the main idea of the prompt. And I'll get my friend Vân to help translate what I mean when I say a neutral paraphrase. If you can say that, please.
Cái neutral có nghĩa là trung lập đó mọi người. Tức là trong cái câu topic sentence này mình cần phải không cần phải nói ý kiến của mình, nhưng chỉ cần đưa ra cái câu mà nó diễn đạt lại cái đề bài một cách trung lập thôi. Và cái phần mà ý kiến hay không thì tiếp theo mình sẽ rõ nha.
So we want the first sentence of the essay to be neutral, like her name is Vân, by the way, like Vân just told us. This topic sentence that we're looking at, it's not neutral. It's giving analysis. It's giving opinion and feedback specifically on your analysis. We can never analyze the prompt in the topic sentence of the introduction. The second problem is in the final sentence of the introduction. The student said, "I do not think these points are related." However, the first sentence already connected video games and criminal activities together. So it does not make sense to say that the points are not related because the first sentence already connected them. This sentence also fails in task response. The prompt asks, to what extent do you agree or disagree with the statement? But the introduction did not give us any extent. The introduction only said, I do not think these points are related. You must use an adverb like this. I completely disagree, or I mostly disagree. This tells the extent of the opinion. It's very important for this kind of prompt. Anytime you see a prompt in IELTS that says extent, your first thought should be use an adverb, LY words. Finally, the introduction did not provide an outline of the main ideas. The last sentence of the introduction should always give an outline of the main ideas. This is important to the IELTS parameter called coherence and cohesion. The final sentence of the introduction is a guideline because it tells the examiner the main ideas you intend to cover in your next body paragraphs. So if you just write, I will discuss my view, it does not provide any information, does not give an outline. It does not help your score. You must refer to your body paragraph ideas inside of your introduction. So those are the comments that I have for this student for the introduction. So now I'll give you some time to think about that. If you have any questions, you can ask them now. Oh, okay. So I see one comment of, by the way, my good partner is helping me here. So I'm looking at the comments that you've written. Of course, when you give comments, you can type them out and post them, or if you would like to talk, you can do that as well. So I'm looking right now at Anh Đức. Anh Đức says, growing trend is not accurate. I think that's probably true, because we don't know that it is a growing trend, right? I agree with that. Do you have any other specific question about this student's introduction or the comments that I've made? Okay. Oh wow, we have even more people now. Great. If I didn't get to say hello to you, sorry about that, but I'll say hello now. Very happy to see all of you. If you're just joining right now, oh, go ahead. Yes, Anh Đức, you can talk. Yeah, we probably should do the raise hand signal, but if you want to talk, go ahead and talk. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, sorry. Thanks a lot. I see the clear comments of you to give you feedback about the introduction of this prompts. I think I said growing trend was not accurate because I think growing trend is a changing situation. But video games and criminal activities is not a trend. Yes. Do you think so?
Let me think about that.
I think, for example, trend is a changing situation.
Yes.
For example, nowadays many people are using more and more internet is a trend. And violence and video games and criminal activities is I think is a activity, not trend. Yes.
I understand what you're saying. Actually, when we think about violence in video games, we're not just thinking about video games. We're thinking about one big idea, which is violence in video games. And it is possible to look at that idea, violence in video games, and think, oh, maybe there is no trend there because it's a simple idea. The simple idea is violence in video games. However, we can think a little bit deeper, think a little bit more, and we can understand that actually violence in video games can have a trend. For example, I remember when I was younger, video games were not allowed to show blood. It was not possible to show blood. Even today, in China, a lot of games cannot show blood. However, in my country, as the years go by, it becomes possible to show blood. When I was young, it was not possible to show drinking alcohol or doing drugs. But as the years go by, more and more games are using these kinds of things. So for this prompt, we can actually understand that yes, violence in video games can be a trend. The main problem with this student is that they are linking these things together in the introduction by automatically saying the idea of violence in games and criminal activities are already connected and happening. This means analysis. And this is the main problem, that we cannot provide analysis in that first sentence. What do you think about that?
Yes, I agree with you.
And you correctly.
I think it's a problem I see in my advice. I want you to explain more about it. You can say the introduction, the last sentence in the introductions should always outline the key ideas, of the body paragraph. But yes. I think in conclusion, you should even summarize key ideas, which maybe show the repetition of introduction and conclusion. You can explain more about it.
You want me to explain more about that idea?
Yes, the idea,
I can. I promise you, I will talk about conclusion soon.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
thank you.
Because actually, for the other students watching right now, actually, sorry, am I calling your name correctly? Your name is Anh Đức, right?
My name is Anh.
Anh. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I can call you Anh, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what Anh Eng is actually a student of mine who has given me a lot of essays to be marking. And so the idea that she's thinking about is, how do we balance the relationship between the introduction and the conclusion in order to summarize efficiently, and how do we do that correctly? And actually, Eng, when I first was reading the essays that Eng gave me, her score needed some help. And after receiving more feedback, her score really improved a lot. And this idea is exactly what I will talk about at the end of the workshop today. Okay? Oh, I see one more comment from Keng Ling. Keng Ling says, I think we should outline main ideas in the introduction. This is also the exact same concept that we were talking about with Eng. It's exactly true, it's exactly correct, and it is a mistake that the student made. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to move on now to what I want to present to you as a good topic sentence. One moment, please. Okay, so one thing that's really important for you guys is a lot of students understand the basic feedback that I give. However, a lot of students don't know how to take my feedback and change it into good writing. So at the end of this workshop, I plan to give you instructions on how you can receive my model answer for this prompt. The model answer is a total model answer for the entire essay. But first, I will show some of the model answer here for you to look at. And you can see here where I say good topic sentence. This is the first part of the model answer. And this topic sentence says, the exposure of youth to graphic gaming depictions has been debated since the earliest release of realistic games. So let's go ahead and analyze the model sentence that I provided to you. This prompt uses the word depicted. You can see that highlighted. But the model uses a new word called exposure. Depicted means represented or shown. And the word exposure in the model answer in this context means seeing something. Then next, we have the word violent in the prompt, but the model answer uses the word graphic. Normally, graphic means like drawings or designs. You might be familiar with graphic novels, like Japanese manga. However, in this context, graphic means the clear representation of physical harm. It is a totally different word from drawings, and graphic meaning harm is an excellent vocabulary term for you to learn to benefit the lexical resource. Again, lexical resource is one of those 4 parameters in IELTS. Any questions about that? That's just a little explanation of the model answer there. You can, of course, type your comments, or if you want to speak, you can speak as well. It's just a short one. Okay, let's move on. Now we will move on to body paragraph 1. So let's look at the topic sentence for body paragraph 1. This topic sentence says, video games of all kinds are a simple way for young people to relieve their stress. Can you see the problem? This topic sentence has a really big problem, and it's another mistake in task response because it is off topic from the prompt. The prompt is about video games and violent activities. This topic sentence is about why young people play video games. Next, the paragraph describes that young people spend all day at school and they learn about correct behavior at school. However, this content does not connect to the topic sentence's idea about relieve stress. This is an error in coherence and cohesion. The paragraph talks about following rules, but it does not talk about relieving stress or the motivation for playing games at all. Very importantly, it does not prove the opinion presented in the introduction. The last sentence of body paragraph 1 is actually not too bad. It says, it is not possible for the games to have a great impact on the behavior of these young people. This connects to the prompt, and it also connects to the opinion of the student. Those are good things. Unfortunately, the content inside body paragraph 1 does not have any connection to this final sentence. This is another error in coherence and cohesion. And I see this all the time, where students will write a lot of good ideas and a good example inside of the body. Then at the very end, when they want to sum up, it's like a completely different concept. So that's a common issue that I see. So for body paragraph 1, if you have any questions, you can say them now, or you can type them out for us to look at. Wow, we have so many people now. Wow. If I did not get to say hello to you, sorry about that. We're about halfway through. We'll finish around 3 o'clock. Great, we've got so many people. Okay, any questions? No? Okay, let's move on to body paragraph 2. So body paragraph 2. The topic sentence of body paragraph 2 says this: young people have many wholesome activities in which to participate in their communities and schools. This topic sentence is a solution to a problem. The sentence talks about enjoying activities in communities instead of playing games. This sentence might be correct if the prompt were a problem-solution type prompt. But this prompt is just asking about your opinion. So it is not correct to offer a solution like this. This is an error in task response because it misunderstands the prompt. And I see this also all the time. If your prompt is asking about your opinion, the extent of your opinion, do you agree or disagree? You can never give a solution, ever. The only time you can give a solution is specifically for one type of prompt, the problem-solution prompt. Now let's look at the example in this paragraph. The example here that I have bolded for you is about soccer being played among all ages. The sport of soccer encourages teamwork, and soccer has strict rules against violence. So the student wants to use the idea of soccer as their main example to show how this sport promotes peaceful activity and good behavior. The problem of this paragraph is that soccer is off topic. It's an error in coherence and cohesion. All this paragraph talks about is sports. And it doesn't make sense because the prompt is about something else. It's about video games and violence. So so we cannot spend so much of the paragraph talking about sports. However, I do want to say that it is true, soccer does have rules to forbid violence. The problem with the student is, how does that connect to the prompt? Do soccer rules help young people behave better in real life? The example never tells us. The example does not explain how does soccer rules help students behave better. How does soccer rules make it more possible for a young person to have good behavior instead of video game violence? The example never connects to the prompt about video game violence, so the ideas here do not prove the point of the student. And body paragraph 2 is really common among students. The main thing that I see is that, first of all, the sentences are grammatical. The sentences make sense. The sentences follow the correct structure that teachers are always telling students. It looks good. Probably when you read it, you might be okay with it. But without the prompt, the sentences don't make sense. All of these good things about grammar and vocabulary and meaning don't matter because they do not meet the prompt correctly. That's what I have for paragraph 2. Let's look at our questions about that. I see something from Anh. Anh says, I think overall this essay is off topic and task response is surely below band 6. May show band 4. That's exactly what I just said, so your opinion is very correct. And Dave says, I think the student panics and wrote what was on his or her mind, lack of planning. That's also very possible. Any other questions about this one, about body paragraph 2, about the idea with soccer and why it's not correct? Okay. That's fine, let's move on. So like I was mentioning before, for the students who are here and who will follow some instructions, I will provide to you a complete model answer. Again, this is another small piece of the model answer that I'm providing to the students here. So this model answer is a model topic sentence for body paragraph 2 for you to look at. The body paragraph 2 topic sentence says, inasmuch as parents impact the behavior of their children, social circles too play an integral role in the development of acceptable actions. Remember, body paragraph 2 should always connect to body paragraph 1. In this model sentence, the first part connects to body paragraph 1 because it talks about the impact of the parents. Next, it talks about the development of acceptable actions. These things together are what make you score higher in coherence and cohesion. Secondly, the topic sentence must transition to the content of body paragraph 2. The model shows this by saying, social circles too play an integral role. That shows us moving on from body paragraph 1 to body paragraph 2. That transition is very important for coherence and cohesion. This topic sentence connects to the first body paragraph and it informs the examiner of the main idea coming in body paragraph 2. Okay, finally, we will move on to the conclusion and let's think about something that is really, really important, time management. Remember, you have very little time to write this essay, only around 40 minutes. The introduction and conclusion should be very similar. And this is what Anh was talking about earlier in our workshop today, the way that the introduction and the conclusion work together. The way that I think about introduction and conclusion is that the conclusion should rephrase the introduction. The reason why is because time is the main priority. Of course, remember, you must always have a conclusion. If you're running out of time, maybe you have like 10 minutes left or 15 minutes left, and you're still in the body paragraphs, maybe halfway with body paragraph 2 or something, and you think, okay, I'm going to spend more time and more effort making sure my body paragraphs are really good and really strong, and maybe I just won't write a conclusion. Huge mistake. It is always going to fail you if you do not write a conclusion. It's unacceptable. So, if you see time is short and you're in the middle of body paragraph 2, just do your best and move on. Make sure you have a conclusion, no matter what. Even if it's one sentence, get it done. It will always benefit your score. Even if it's just a simple sentence, having it there is very important. If you don't have a conclusion, good luck. You might get a 5. Okay, that's the importance of time management. And actually, as a second thing I would like to mention to all of you, and I try to tell my students this as much as possible, time yourself when you write. I practice writing these things. Even though I speak English and I've been teaching for a long time, I practice writing the same way that I expect you to do. And I time myself when I do my writing. And I make sure I can finish my body paragraphs by 12 minutes. I time myself the same way I expect you to do. And it always makes me have some pressure. And if I'm, lost for ideas or I'm getting stuck, I force myself to push through and do my best and get done with the conclusion. And I advise you the same thing. Time yourself. That is the best way to do time management. Practice it like that. Okay, let's move on to the conclusion. So I already mentioned that we have to manage our time. So when we look at this first sentence of the conclusion, you can see the phrase in conclusion. I highlighted it here, and it should be avoided. It's not wrong, a lot of people use in conclusion. The problem is that it won't help you reach a high score. It will give you something like a 5 or a 6. The reason is that it is an error in lexical resource. Lexical resource meaning using good vocabulary, showing a diverse range in phrases. In conclusion is something that, I learned that when I was 10 years old. Certainly, you can use a better way of writing than that. It's a safe way of writing, but it won't give you a good score. Secondly, the first sentence of the conclusion talks about activities that benefit the community. Activities that benefit the community does not really address the prompt. Remember, the prompt was about violence and video games. So this is a big problem in coherence and cohesion. There's no connection in the essay. There's no connection from the introduction, no connection to the conclusion, and no connection to the prompt. So another big mistake. And I put that here in this little graphic. You can see here that the conclusion should always refer to two things: the prompt and the introduction. And the reason I advise this is to save time. Remember, the examiner will always read the first sentence of your essay. And examiners usually will read the first sentence of each paragraph. However, the conclusion is not something examiners focus on a lot unless it's wrong. If it's wrong, it's going to get in trouble. But the examiner will not spend a lot of time on the conclusion. A conclusion is supposed to be written quickly and efficiently, and it should match the introduction. And one last comment I want to make about the final sentence of the conclusion is this. It says, sports and recreation centers should be promoted to reduce such problems. This idea of reducing problems because of sports does not exist in the essay. The first time we see this idea is in the conclusion. And this is another common, huge mistake. Never include new information in your conclusion. It doesn't matter if it's true. It doesn't matter if it's relevant. Never write new information in the conclusion. So that's some feedback that I have about conclusions and the way that they should connect to the introduction. So if you have other questions about that, or if Anh has something to say. Okay, Ling has something. When writing an essay in literature, completing full structure is also significant. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Thank you, Kaylin. And did I answer your question about the conclusion correctly? Or do you have other questions that you want to talk about for introduction and conclusion? No? Okay. Okay. Then that is fine.
I think.
Please go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. I have read many model answer of yours. Yes,
Okay.
and I think
They're really good, right?
I see a lot of idioms and idiomatic expressions. But in the writing test 2 question, it's another formality. Writing test 2 question is a formal writing. But you can explain more why you choose many idiom or add many idioms in your model answers. I think idioms is informal. Yes.
I completely agree with you. Personally, I hate idioms. I don't like them. When I was teaching in Singapore, I always told my students never write idioms because of the reason you just said. Because idioms are not formal. They're not formal writing. And writing task 1 and writing task 2 are very formal writing styles. So it's so strange to use idioms. The only reason that I suggest students to use idioms, and the only reason that I use idioms in my model answers, is because when you look at the IELTS guidelines, IELTS has published some guidelines for each of the bands. And one thing that IELTS points out is using idiomatic expressions and using colloquial expressions in writing. So for that reason, I include them, because IELTS does look for them. IELTS wants to see them. They want to see it in writing a little bit. I advise that you should use at least 2 or 3 in your writing task 2. The real place to use idiomatic or colloquial expressions is in speaking. This one really matters, but it also does matter in writing task 2. Is that okay?
Yes, but in the writing band descriptor, public band descriptor, I don't see the idiomatic expression in the lexical resource of writing.
They might call it colloquial expression. I can look at it right now because I have it. I have it right here. Writing task 2 descriptors. Yeah, you can see in the writing task 2 band descriptors in the public version, you can see at band 8 under lexical resource that it talks about word choice and collocation. In band 7, you can also see uses lexical items with awareness of style and collocation. So the term collocation appears twice there, and collocation is another way to understand idiomatic expression.
Collocation is okay, but I think collocation is the way the native speaker naturally groups a single word together. It's natural chunks, but idiomatic expressions is not literal meaning. It's not show literal meaning. It show the idiomatic meanings.
That's true, and the way to understand this a little bit better is that, like you just said, collocations are words that go together in a native speaker's speaking. So you can think about it like, do you know about phrases like to put up with? These are called phrasal verbs. Are you familiar with phrasal verbs?
Yes.
Phrasal verbs are collocations, and they can also be understood as idiomatic expressions because collocations are what native speakers use, and like you said, is correct. Idiomatic expressions do not have a literal meaning. So phrasal verbs are a good example of both collocation and idiomatic expression. They are a group of words that native speakers use, but they do not have a literal meaning. That's why I also use, beyond phrasal verbs, I also use idiomatic expressions to apply with collocation.
Yes, I partly agree with the phrasal verb. If phrasal verb apply to me in writing tests, but especially idioms in idiom in writing, I think is not formal, and I think it's not appropriate for writing. Idiom only.
That's perfectly fine. If you don't think they're appropriate, don't use them.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, of course. You're not going to score well, but you don't have to use them. Oh, I've got one more question here from KHÅNG. How to make a hook sentence for the introduction? I got this question a lot in the past about hook sentences. That means like a first introductory sentence that catches attention. In my opinion, I've seen a lot of students worry and waste time a lot on the first sentence to get an interesting hook. I think there has to be some balance with the first sentence. Yes, it should be interesting. Yes, it should be original. But don't waste a lot of time trying to think of the most creative and fun and active way to write a first sentence. You have 40 minutes. If you can think of something interesting and attractive, go for it, write it. For my advice, the way that I write my first sentences is I focus on paraphrasing the prompt. And I try to use my lexical resource, I try to use adverbs, I try to use phrases with prepositions as much as possible. I'm not that creative, actually. I can't think of good hooks. If you like Anh said she has read a lot of my model answers, which I think is really great. but I can advise you that if you look at my model answers, very seldom can you see a first sentence that is so interesting and oh my goodness, that catches my attention and I want to read more. A lot of teachers focus on that. I don't, because you have 40 minutes. It's an English test. You got to get going, you got to get done. If you can think of something clever and creative, go for it. Otherwise, focus on this. Adverbs, phrases using prepositions. Paraphrase, paraphrase, paraphrase the prompt. Lexical resource. Any other questions for our workshop so far? More? We have more? What can be replaced with in conclusion? The exact same thing that I just said for introduction. A lot of students, for the conclusion, a lot of students look for, I need a linking device for my conclusion. I need some kind of a linking term. Don't worry about it. In conclusion is probably the only real linking device for a conclusion, and I advise don't write it. Focus more instead on paraphrasing and rephrasing your introduction and connecting to your prompt. Again, I will repeat this. Look at my model answers. Do my model answers for conclusion use a lot of linking devices? Not really. I try to write it the way a student will write it. I try to write it in a very direct way. Yes. Okay, I've got another question from Ang. Conclusion is great in writing. It may be used if they're formal, should be rewarded, not punished. That's fine. If you want to write in conclusion, you certainly can. I can tell you that in my experience, well, I've taken IELTS 3 times and I've always scored perfect 9s, and I've never ever written in conclusion. If you want to, hey, you can. I think it's not a good idea, but always remember, take the feedback of your teacher and compare with your own experience and make a decision that you think is best. The teacher is not God. We're not perfect. Yes, thank you for that, Dave. Yeah, some idiomatic expressions are used in Band 9 writing samples. You can see that sometimes IELTS will show some good scores for writing test 2, but it's not very common. But you can see other people will write this way. Yes, it is possible. You are share Band 9 sample answers including these phrases. Is that a question? And you are share Band 9 writing samples. Okay. Well, what a great conversation we're having. Who needs me? Okay, good. We've got a nice little debate going on. Okay, so wow, we've got so many people. This is great. Lots and lots of people here. So for the conclusion of in conclusion, our workshop will give you a model answer for this entire prompt that we just discussed. So for those of you who joined today with me, please send us your name and send us your email that you register on our platform in order to receive the model answer. And if you don't have an account already, you can make your account on logicofielts.com. That's logicofielts.com in order to give your name and your email to register for the full model answer. I see another question here from Kayleen. We should use a general example or the real data. You mean for writing test 2, right, Kayleen? Yes, for writing task 2, use a general example or the real data. And you're talking about the conclusion, the first sentence of the conclusion, right? Okay, well, I guess so. For the first sentence of the conclusion, you should never start with an example. Oh, the body paragraph. The example of the body paragraph. Okay. So Kang Ling is asking about the body paragraph right now. She's asking, in the body paragraph, should we use a general example or should we use real data? Great question. Never use real data unless you already have it memorized. Do not learn real data for this test. IELTS is an English test. If you go into writing task 2 and you say something like, according to Harvard University, in 2007, 41% of children had violent ideas after playing a game. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a real study and real statistics and real numbers. Don't do it. General is correct. It's an English test, not a knowledge test. Focus on general examples. Relate to your real life. Relate to your own personal ideas. Notice, in every writing task 2 prompt, it always tells you, draw upon your own experiences. It doesn't say draw upon a study from Harvard University. Don't overthink. Think logically. Think about general ideas. I see a question from Chào. Could you introduce a bit about your writing course? I definitely can, but I will have to do that later in some private messages. Unfortunately, I've got another meeting coming up at 3 p.m. So if you have more questions about the writing course that we offer, we're really happy to answer those questions, but we'll have to do that later outside of this chat. I might get my partner here, Van, to help to communicate with you, Chào. Okay, I think that's very good. That's a very good opinion to share. Any other questions about our workshop or anything else that I can help you guys with? Okay, if not, please remember to contact us with your name and your email, and please register on our platform so that you can see our model answer. Thank you again so much for joining our workshop, and soon we will have another workshop. If you have some special requests of what you would like to see in the workshop, if you want writing task 1 or 2, if you want some specific prompt or specific topic, you can always message us and we can take care of that for you next time. Okay, thank you very much everyone for joining. Again, if you have other questions, our staff will help you. Have a good day and be careful if you're in the rain. Those of us here living in Da Nang will be very wet if we're not careful. Yes, you're very, very welcome. It is always my joy to help you and to give you my advice and to help you learn. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you, goodbye. We'll see you next time.